Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to go over a little bit of the history of the cloud just to give you an appreciation of kind of, where we started, where we came from, and where we're at now. And then I'd also like to talk a little bit about some of the different cloud services that are available to you as you become a cloud apps developer, right? Because you're going to have a good understanding of what all the tools that you have available to you are. You're not just going to create a development environment in, say, a Windows virtual machine, pull down Visual Studio, and build your app. Now you're going to build a bunch of different services. You'll be hooking lots of things together, calling APIs. It's going to be crazy, and you are going to have lots of fun doing it. But again, you have to understand where we came from and why this is so important. So I've got some more Google slides for you today, slightly modified again, and hopefully my big head doesn't block too much here for you. But I wanted to give you a little bit of history here. Now, I'm not going to go through like every single one of these points, but just kind of consider that cloud computing is really an extension of renting other people's resources, right? So for the longest time, having your infrastructure on-prem, so on premises, was the important thing, right? You have your own servers, you have an IT staff to manage them. Hopefully everything works well in tandem, but there's always going to be that friction where I need something, some kind of a resource, and we have to wait for it to be provisioned for us through whatever chain that you have, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with that. In that regard, it's actually great. You own all of your data, you have direct access to the resources. Nothing goes outside of your company. But what we start seeing is that this doesn't really scale all that well, right? Um, we basically need to have extra resources. We need things on demand. We need them right now. We start having concerns with like energy management, with massive data storage and all kinds of things like that. And then basically you start seeing the rise of companies like Google and Amazon and Microsoft's, their cloud division starting to provide these services for others. Now, that is just the current wave. Before we had other companies doing that as well. There was CenturyLink, there was Equinix. Basically, you have different providers giving you these resources and these services, right? So you start back with on-prem resources, you move to data centers, you start moving towards cloud virtualization, managed services. Basically, you see this logical progression of other companies managing this for you and providing you on-demand access. And in the cloud, you start seeing something very similar as well, right? You start with this on-prem type of perspective. All of your cloud resources are local. Maybe you have a local SharePoint server or something like that. You have local processing power that you can use. Then you move to virtualization. You move to something like VMware. You start virtualizing all your services. You move to Hyper-V, right? You don't necessarily have physical servers. You have virtual machines that you spin up as you need. You create development environments. You spin up virtual servers, virtual exchange servers, right? Virtual development servers, virtual application servers, whatever you need, you can virtualize and you can spin that up very quickly. More or less either on-prem or at a data center that you're contracting out, but it's still kind of one layer above physical servers. But then you move to something like serverless, where everything becomes elastic, everything becomes fully automated. And again, the picture that you're seeing here is for the Google Cloud logo, but again, this could be Azure, it could be AWS, doesn't matter who. But you effectively have, sorry about that, um, this progression of removing infrastructure from your environment. Now, that's not to say there aren't servers providing this. Obviously, you need machines to provide these services, but you don't have to provision a virtual machine to, say, run a Lambda function or a cloud function. It's all managed and hidden behind the scenes at the data center. So what we're kind of getting towards now are things as a service, right? So with serverless computing, we start considering services to be our big distribution point. And some of the keywords here, and these are also in the course description if you were reading that. We have infrastructure as a service, we have platform as a service, we have software as a service. And these are going to be kind of the three core tenets of this course, honestly. And we're going to be looking at some of the different categories here. So infrastructure as a service, you can almost think of kind of like your virtual machine needs, right? You're getting some kind of a server being spun up. Basically, the user has access to manage the operating system. Maybe if it's a straight up application, you have that configuration ability. That's your infrastructure. But since it is managed by a cloud provider, it is now a service-based architecture. It's not a local on-prem thing, right? You still have the ability to configure it and manage it, but cloud provider handles that, right? The second one's platform as a service. So the platform itself is the managed service, and that's exactly what it says right there, right? So effectively, you're taking that virtual configuration out of the equation and you're just providing the application, right? I'm putting up something that has to be run. And I don't care what operating system it's being run on. I don't care what delivery system it is. I just want this thing to run, and I'm going to let the cloud provider handle that. Then the last one that we have here is the software as a service. Basically, this is effectively a third layer of abstraction, right? We don't care about the platform, we don't care about the software. We just want data in and data out. So we want to see changes, right? So think of um, SAP or Salesforce type applications where effectively there is, say an ERP type of system where we're putting data in, we're getting data out. It has been changed by this massive platform along the way. You don't care about the infrastructure, you don't even care about the application, you just know that you're going to get what you need out of it. We've got some examples here as well, if that's a little bit nebulous. So these are now Google products. Again, relate this to AWS or Azure, whatever your cloud provider of choice is. Um, but in terms of what Google offers, there's the infrastructure as a service side where this is your compute engine. Now, this is going to be where you can spin up virtual machines, for instance, right? We'll be doing that in the first lab that you'll see at the very bottom of this post. But you configure the operating system. You have SSH access or remote access, depending if you're going Linux or Windows. Um, Again, you're configuring that operating system. The platform as a service side is going to be your app engine. This is where you start creating applications. And again, this will be in a common programming language like Node or Python or C Sharp or whatever your language of choice is. And you don't care about the operating system. You care about the application itself. You're going to assume that the OS is running somewhere. And what you're going to see kind of behind the scenes is that, yes, Google is spinning up virtual machines for this, or there is a managed pool of these things available. But you, the user, the customer, do not care about that. Then the third side is going to be the managed service. This is going to be your software as a service, right? And this is where you start getting into all of these other products that are out there, right? Here we have Google Translate, for instance. That's a really good example. Um, Again, apply that to AWS or Azure or any of the other translation services out there. I put in one language, I expect to get another language out. If you think about that from an IT perspective, you don't care about the operating system, you don't even care about the application. You just have data in, transformation, data out. That's our software as a service. Now you kind of see here as well, kind of grayed out in between. There's Kubernetes, there's Cloud Functions. These are kind of steps along the way. That's basically containerization and serverless processing. We'll be getting to those, don't worry. But just kind of want to, effectively get out there what some of these products are. Now, we have a whole lot of different available products for you, and you're going to be looking through this in various labs. But I'm just going here to Google's products that are available, and you see there are 100 plus out there, right? And these are all going to fit in somewhere in this IaaS, PaaS, SaaS um, ecosystem, whether it's configurable by you as an application, whether it's an operating system, whether it's a simple, data transformation. But I would highly recommend checking out all of these available tools that you have here. And kind of the nice thing about cloud computing, and again, company dependent, I have to keep throwing that caveat out, you're just going to pay for what you use. So if you have an account that you've set up, this is all going to be available to you. You don't have to say, unlock the third tier of subscription service to get AI access. You just pay directly for this service. And then you can apply that to your company, apply it to your personal projects, whatever you're using. This is all available for you. So just ensure that you are aware of all of these technologies that you have. For instance, in the compute engine here, this was, again, your infrastructure as a service. We have a whole plethora of things we can use, right? There is compute engine, virtual machines. We have app engine, serverless application development. You have cloud GPUs. Do you need graphics processing units for, your machine learning applications, your TensorFlow applications, whatever you're using? Hey, here's a GPU that you can use to run CUDA or something like that. So there are just a whole lot of things that you can be doing. Maybe you don't need an operating system. Maybe you want to use a database environment, right? Maybe you want to use Firebase or you want to use Bigtable or BigQuery or something of that nature. It's all there. And again, if you go back to the last video, you realize that this is all available to you. You just have to pay for what you use. And again, kind of the nice thing about being in the cloud is that it is all managed by you, it is all paid for by you, and it is all scalable to your needs. So definitely check out the available products. And again, if you don't want to be a Google house, right? You don't want to be a Google development house. Use Amazon, use Microsoft, use whatever cloud provider you want. Check out which products they have available to you and tailor those to your needs. So, hopefully this has been informative for you. I will see you all in the next video.